Welcome to episode 21 of Building Blocks with Brendan. Today, we get to talk about the largest organ in the human body. Do you know what that is? It's your skin. We talk with Caralyn Hale, who is a holistic acne coach, about how not only she was able to start a business, but make it a full-time job and grow it throughout the pandemic. What's very unique about our conversation is not only talking about the struggles of being a solo entrepreneur where the success and failure is completely on you, but how you're able to manage being that one person who has to do everything. You have to do marketing, sales, product management in some businesses, customer success. You have to work with your clients, find your clients, grow your client list, and do all of this day after day after day. And although there's many resources to help you, being a solo entrepreneur also comes with a lot of stressors as you have to do a lot of things you might not be an expert at. So we talked to Caralyn about how she was able to manage this, juggle this, but find success and be a shining example of what you can do, not only with a great knowledge base, but also with a work ethic to grow a business about something you're passionate about. What was very nice to hear about our conversation is Caralyn's able to do something I think we all wish we could, and that is help out a younger version of herself. Caralyn speaks openly about how she struggled with her skin for the past 15 years and how that the marketing machine around you'd say skincare products, all these quick fixes weren't quick fixes. They were fixing nothing until she found her own skin coach who helped her navigate this world and take control over her skin. Caralyn really wants to do the same to help women all across the world to take control over their skin and really better their lives. One thing we talk about is that a lot of these challenges, whether it be your skin, your sleep, your physical health, your mental health, are all interconnected. So we don't just talk about a skincare routine. We talk about some lifestyle changes we can all make to really have a healthier and happier life. One thing is true is that there's no quick fixes to anything. And just like growing a business, nothing comes quick overnight. Although Caralyn's business and her organization has only been around for a few years, we really go over her 15-year journey to get to where she is today. Hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. It's quite a peaceful and insightful one. And hopefully you leave this episode realizing you need to take better care of your skin, put on that sunscreen. I know I have to. So we can all live not only a healthier life, but not hurt our largest organ in our body and give it some nice TLC. I guess to start off, who are you? What do you do? Very basic to start.
Hi, Bren. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here and be chatting with you and catching up. So yeah, my name is Caralyn, and I'm a registered holistic nutrition practitioner, and more specifically, a holistic skin coach and acne expert. I support women who are experiencing acne to heal their skin with a holistic and natural approach. And with this, I develop personal skin healing plans and protocols and really provide women with the knowledge and tools that they need to listen to their bodies, make tweaks and substitutions to their lifestyle. We're making tweaks to their skincare routines, their mindset, and really their overall nutrition practices to achieve their happiest skin. This is something that I'm really passionate about as it's been really close to my heart. This is something that I've struggled with throughout really since like teenage years into my adult life. So it's something that I'm really passionate about and really just providing women with a holistic and natural alternative for acne.
And so you say something you've been interested in for quite a while. So I guess how did it start? How did you go from kind of being interested in it, probably doing your own research, to saying, you know what, I want to help others, start a business from it? Was it a gradual shift, or was it something where you woke up one day and said, I'm going to take this leap towards trying to start my own business or do something for myself? How did that transition occur?
It really came about through, so like I said, I've been struggling with acne really since like my teenage years. And like a lot of young women, I went through all of the conventional options. So working with your family doctor, working with a dermatologist, and really trying all conventional options that were offered to me. Things like antibiotics, things like really harsh skincare, things like Accutane, and really anything that a dermatologist would throw at me, I was willing to try. And what really led me to this more holistic and natural approach is just not finding the results that I wanted. So I tried all of these things that were like supposed to work, and it just wasn't the answer for me. I was still experiencing pretty persistent cystic and chronic acne. And so I just decided, I was still super optimistic. I was like, no, there's definitely an answer out there for me. It's just not in this conventional realm. And that's when I more or less, I think like everyone, stumbled across a more holistic approach through nutrition, through mindset, through lifestyle, through different like supplements, that I really began seeing these results. And not only that, for my skin, also learned so much about myself, learned so much about my body, and learned so many amazing ways to support my overall health.
Mhm.
So, in a lot of ways, I say this, and it sounds kind of corny, but I really say that acne has really been my greatest teacher. It's been something I've struggled with now for like over 15 years, but it continually challenges me to really become the best version of me, really learn about what works for me, what doesn't work for me, helps me set really strong boundaries in my life. And what I mean by that is having like a really consistent nutrition routine, having, making sleep a priority, making health a priority. It just constantly is a reminder to make myself a priority. So yeah, that's what kind of led me down this path. And I'm so passionate about sharing it because I really want to be a voice and a resource for other women who are experiencing the same thing so that they're able to make really empowered decisions about their health. My hope is that any woman experiencing acne doesn't feel like frustrated and lost and really like she's tried everything. I kind of want to be that alternate option for her to find the solution that she's looking for. So, yeah, that's what.
And I know, especially what you were touching on, it's like in many different aspects of life, or even in like health, is that everything's very connected. You brought up, not only obviously skincare, but also diet, sleep, probably an emotional well-being, stress, all these other factors. And more people I talk to in the mental health space, in the really any space that touches health, everything tends to be, connected. I remember speaking to some individuals or some even psychologists where they said, well, we're really just speaking about mental health now, but it's very hard to have one part of your life very good if other parts are maybe challenging or are having difficulties. Like for a lot of people, if it's, if you're having bad sleep and you're like, oh, why am I feeling tired? Well, that's simply your lack of sleep, but maybe it's also your diet that's affecting your energy levels, or maybe it's something else. And how you said, like really a holistic approach, looking at all parts to really have or really figure out what are causing some issues, but also to just better yourself in general. Like when you're healthy, a lot of other things tend to really come together as well. One always interesting thing I know, especially when you're talking about nutrition or anything else, is that it's very hard to pinpoint one thing a lot of times. And a lot of people want to say, hey, look, like, oh, I have this one issue. Why am I getting this one issue? And a lot of times it takes trial and error. Even in like the conventional medical world, when there's like a new drug or any drugs, it's never like, oh, we guarantee this will work. There's always a trial period or a testing period. So over your own journey, how did you stay, I guess I would say motivated, or how did you keep up with trying to adjust things, not saying like this is not working? I know that can be a lot of frustration when you try one thing, it doesn't work. Did you see slow success until you got to where you are? Or is it, like you said, a constant journey and you're trying to always figure out, but how did you stay, I guess, motivated when there is such a long journey ahead of you?
It can be it can be super challenging to stay motivated for sure, especially when you are struggling with something like your skin that is really something that identifies you to the whole world. It can be very frustrating, very emotional for a lot of women. And I would say the thing that gets me really the most excited about a holistic approach is you're looking at all aspects of your life to really bring your whole body back into balance.
Mhm.
And something that I continually tell my clients is that when your body is on the right track, like when you are supporting your body in the right ways, your body's going to let you know that. So there are many things to look for that your body is getting the support that it needs. So, like, for example, it may take, I usually say, between like 3 to 6 months to really see a difference for your skin.
Hmm.
And I know that can seem like a really, really long time, but even more aggressive conventional treatments like Accutane, even that takes 3 to 6 months to show results as well. So, that is usually someone who's struggling with their skin is pretty on board with that. But what I do say is things to help you stay motivated. And when we're looking at a holistic approach, you're going to see improvement with like your digestion, with your mood, with your sleep, things like that. And that's a sign that your body is like on the right track. And those are amazing signs that your body is healing and can really help you stay motivated. And another thing, too, is a lot of women at first may experience maybe not less breakouts, but less inflammation. So less inflamed breakouts, and their breakouts will heal faster. So a spot won't last as long. And so with that, I really just try to provide information and really try to, I usually meet with my clients every week, and we try to celebrate those small wins along the way. And I think helping them pinpoint these smaller wins really helps stay motivated towards their long-term goal of getting their acne in a good spot.
And I like what you said with the small wins, because I feel like a lot of times everywhere, whether it be in entrepreneurship, which we'll touch on more, or in business, you always see those like instant success stories, like, oh, you started a company, it's $1 billion tomorrow, or especially with TV and marketing, it's like, I had bad skin last week and now I have perfect skin. And there's always those extreme stories, because it's like you said, it's in anything in life when you're like, hey, this is going to be some work, there is going to be some trials, there's going to be a learning curve. That is less uh, uh, less exciting, or also less marketable to be like than just saying instant success. And I think that's with everywhere in life. And like how you touched on, really celebrating those small incremental improvements that will get you closer to that, even if there's never an end goal, but constantly get you closer to having a really healthy lifestyle, healthy mind in general. So, you know, you have experience with this, you're working towards it, you're kind of testing things out yourself. How does it come to finding your first few customers or working with the first few people? Was it family and friends you started advising? They said, hey, this, you're really good at speaking, you're a good person, let's figure this out, maybe you should help my other friend. Like, when did it come from really just sharing knowledge to saying, I'm going to try to develop a business, or like do this as a profession rather than just doing it as a side project or just a passion project, I guess you would say?
This really came together for me. I think like a lot of other entrepreneurs like stumbled across it, and it actually stemmed from me working with someone really similar to what I'm doing now. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was first kind of diving into the holistic realm and getting my holistic nutrition diploma, I worked with a skin coach to improve my acne, and she was just so amazing, and she honestly inspired me to do this and like learn so much. Yeah, so that's where that came from. And then in the beginning, I would say, like most other people, start like an Instagram account. And at the beginning, I definitely got so much. I don't know what the right word is, but I got so much back from just like sharing information. Like it felt so good just to share something I was passionate about on a platform. That was like enough for me. I think like the energy exchange was like perfect. And then I think as you grow, and I think as you become more you see your identity change from just being like, oh, someone who's sharing knowledge. My identity was kind of changing, and I wanted to be like that healer for someone. I wanted to be a more like hands-on supporting people.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I grew like in confidence in what I was sharing and learning, that kind of grew into this like new identity of, no, I want to do this full time as a job. Like I want to be a holistic acne coach. And if you had told me like 10 years ago, I wouldn't even know that was a job. So but now it's like, it's crazy. It's a part of my identity.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that really I'm so proud of and something I love doing and continually to do. So I think that answered your question.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's good. And it's always nice to hear. I know when I was talking to other individuals as well, is that journey from a passion into a business can sometimes be challenging in the sense that some people might feel like, oh, like I don't want to make it a job because I don't know if I will like it as much. I don't want to, I'm passionate, but once you put a dollar sign beside it, it can take away the fun. But for most individuals I've spoken to, that's not really the case. It's more you now get to spend more of your time doing things that are really more engaging. And although this was a conversation a few days ago, although it could be more stressful, like having to realize if I don't work today, I don't get a paycheck per se, or it's like, oh, like any minute I'm not doing something else, there's that stress added onto it. But I've also heard that it's more calm because at the end of the day, people feel like they're contributing to a future they're more happy with. So even if there's more stress, you feel more, in a way, energized because, okay, I did something I'm happy with, I'm passionate about, I'm making a difference in my world, but also in other people's worlds as well. So even though there's other stressors, I'm more calm in a way or more happy in a way because I'm making more of that impact. And it really comes out through your story as well that you had a positive experience and you wanted to be that positive experience in other people's lives. So you realize you're like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I want to make it my job. How do you get your first few customers? Because I'm assuming just like anything else, it can sometimes be hard to stand out because there's so, like you said, there's so many different options. There's conventional, there's other Instagram, TikTok, 5-minute tricks. There's a variety of things. How did you get your first few people to reach out to you, or how did you reach out to the first few people?
So I think this kind of comes, I've gotten some really, really great advice along the
Mhm,
way. And I think this was my friend who said, she's also an entrepreneur
mhm,
as well, has her own business. She said, like, build it and they will come. It
mhm,
sounds like, I don't even know where that's from. Um, but I've definitely heard
mhm,
it before. And that's so true. I think just like building what you want and just having confidence in it is definitely a great way to get started. And just kind of being, I think, being super authentic and trying to be super vulnerable and being like, this is who I am, this is what I'm passionate about. And I think that comes through like on Instagram and through like different social platforms. That's really where I've gotten
mhm,
majority of my clients. I did start a lot with friends and family. But yeah, now my clients come really from like social platforms. And because I have a still like smaller
mhm,
community, it's really easy to connect with people. And I
mhm.
think that that connection like comes through in that space. Yeah.
And what's really funny, you say building they will come. I was speaking to someone else in the similar holistic space, and they said they knew they want to do this as a job in the future. So they started an Instagram account 3 years before because they realized, I need to create that following. And as you're very aware, to create a following is not an overnight thing. It takes time. You first have to, as silly as it sounds, you have to figure out who you are as a person. But that sounds always silly, but truthfully is you have to develop your own like Instagram or your own brand to say, okay, I'm more passionate about this. This is me as a person. And when it comes to a lot of these one-on-one coaching, the person has to almost like you as well. It's almost, it's similar to how I would say is like a LinkedIn or any other Instagram account. It's almost always a little bit like a dating profile where you're like, okay, the person who hops on your profile, they have to like you by your photos, what you post, because they're going to have to trust you with, in your case, like their health at some point as well, and their skin health. Like it's very much a very close relationship. So like how you said, it's really having to focus on building it first, and then from there using it as a way to really grow and get people to come reach out to you. Because like you said, if you're not vulnerable and you're just really make it too technical or too businessy, for a lot of people that turns them off because they're like, oh, this is just a business. I want to work with a person. I think how you said having a person behind a page is really important with that.
Yeah.
So,
And
mhm,
one thing I'll add too, just in the
mhm,
holistic space too, I know when I was struggling with my skin, I really wanted to work with someone who like specialized in acne. So
mhm,
that's something I'm really passionate about as well because I have done a lot of like conventional and more alternative practitioners,
mhm,
and I just feel like you can get a lot more value from someone who's specializing
Mhm.
in something you're struggling with, because there's so many different opinions, there's so many ways that you can tackle anything.
Mhm.
But I think finding someone who specializes in something that you're
Mhm.
looking for can really go a long way.
And I'm not too familiar with the whole, especially within the acne world
Yeah.
in that sense. But how do you? Is there a different? I'm assuming there's many different approaches, but how did you develop your own approach? Was it just based on your personal experience? Was it a branch of research or like a movement? I guess movement might be the wrong word, but how did you develop kind of your own personal brand? Was it just what you found worked for you and that you wanted to share, or was there a way of staying on top of it? I guess two questions here is one, how did you develop your own brand? When you posted on Instagram, started your Instagram account, did you have a theme in mind or did it form over time? And then secondly, how do you stay up to date with everything that's changing? Because anything that has anything to do with health, we'll talk about that in a bit as well, but it always seems to be always changing. Like every week there's TikTok especially will be like this 5 minute hack is the best thing ever. And half of them are made up at the time. So how did you develop your own brand? And also how do you stay up to date with all this new misinformation, but sometimes correct information as well?
Yeah, okay, so developing my own brand, I think that really just came from, like I said, being super authentic and
Mhm.
genuine and really trying to share my story. And I think that does change over time. I had a lot of people support me with this too, with in terms of like, I think like photography and branding and that type of thing, I think can be super helpful and super important.
Mhm.
And then your second question,
Was how do you say so? This is always something I always found really interesting is when it comes to anything health related, even in nutrition, which is like very common thing, like everyone has experience with nutrition. Like one week will be like carbs are evil, don't eat carbs. Next week it's like, you know what? I lied. All carbs. Well, I don't think there's ever an all carb diet, but it really tends to change. And I do think there's always a truth to everything you hear, but a lot of times it can be very confusing, especially for a client where they're like, well, I'm supposed to do this. Now I'm changing it. And especially with something like you said, it can take 6 months to really see a big difference. How do you stay on top of what's new without kind of always falling into a trend? Or yeah, I guess that's a first question.
yeah, that's a great question. And I think for me, the first thing was obviously having my schooling in
Mhm.
holistic nutrition really helps me, like that kind of has given me a really strong foundation.
Mhm.
So I think that really helps me weed out the stuff, like you said, that's just more trendy, because I
Mhm.
feel like I have a really strong foundation and understanding of health.
Mhm.
Um, so that, like, first and foremost, I think working with someone who does have some sort of schooling and something that you're looking for is really great. And then in terms of working with clients one on one and helping them navigate, because I feel like, yeah, every day there is something new that contradicts something else, and
Mhm.
it's super confusing. I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing I try to get my clients to see is just understanding themselves as an individual.
Mhm.
Everything that it can be super confusing because like what works for one person doesn't work for somebody else. So I think it's really important, and my approach is just to empower my clients with all the options, with all the information. And then at the end of the day, I really help them choose things that are best for them. And then we kind of have this like relationship where if something's not working, like we make a swap. Because at the end of the day, it's all about really getting to know yourself better
Mhm.
and understanding what works for you, so that you don't get caught up in like the marketing that's on TikTok
Mhm.
and these trends, because when that happens, you're just constantly like throwing out your old beliefs and you're
Mhm.
just like hopping on the train. And when you're constantly switching, you're not going to see the results that you want. It's really really important to kind of commit to something for about 3 months to really see the
Mhm.
changes. Now, of course, if something's not working for you at all,
Mhm.
then you don't need to commit for the 3 months, but really making pretty consistent changes
Mhm.
is where you're going to see the most results from my experience. So Overall, I would say empowering my clients to really tap in. I always say like their intuition,
Mhm,
tap into like what works for them. And then they feel so much more confident making
mhm.
decisions for themselves. So that way, when our time is up together, they feel like they're able to like move on and make empowered choices for their health. So,
And yeah, I like how you said that, like developing the foundation so they can help make better informed decisions. And I think one of the challenges, especially like when I was more into fitness or when I was more into nutrition, one thing that occurred to me early on, or I was told, was that you don't always have to look for what's 100% the most best thing for you. Like oh, you're at 99. Well, you should spend an extra hour to get that 100%. Like how I thought and how a lot of people have spoken about is trying to just get a little bit better every day or towards a goal that you can maintain is the most important thing. Because I know for a lot of people, especially in the world of a little bit different in the world of dieting, there's always those pretty harsh diets. But most people, when you speak to them, they say, look, how I maintain my diet is sure I could be, I could never eat cake or I could never do this, but it doesn't really fit my lifestyle. So I would either be miserable or it wouldn't be working out. And then like you said, you'd be jumping between trends. So you'd be almost a lot of times you'd be better off just sticking to something, like you said, that you can maintain and fits your lifestyle and not having as much stress to say, oh, if I tweak this one little thing, but then it ruins the rest of my life, it's never going to be good. You need that, like you said, you need that balance to really ensure that it's maintainable, but also enjoyable. Because at the end of the day, if you're more miserable, what is the real point? And I think that's always hard to learn, especially when you're dealing with something or looking at something. You always want to get the best thing possible right away, but you have to realize you have to, like you said, you have to know yourself and then be okay with what you're doing so you can maintain it. So that's always a challenge, I think, and it's always hard, especially when you're looking online and one saying, "Oh, this is the better." And if you don't understand anything, even medical related, it can always be hard being like, "Well, why is this better?" No one knows. You talk to someone, you talk to one doctor, one holistic coach, and they say, "Well, this is better." And you talk to someone else, they say that is better. But at the end of the day, you could be fighting over, a 5% difference. Where if you just started doing something today, you're getting that 50% and not having to worry about that little tweak that can make no difference or could make a difference. But
yeah,
very,
I
very much
agree.
like your
I agree.
story.
Yeah.
So so now you're going, and COVID happens, right? Everyone is going online, very digital. Have you found that COVID has helped grow the business, or has it been more difficult because it's completely online and maybe people, this is maybe a little bit more of a sassy question, but have you found it helped grow the business, or because people maybe are stuck at home more, they might be, is that helped or hurt you, have you found, I guess?
COVID, and kind of shifting to virtual,
Mhm,
my practice was completely virtual to start with.
mhm,
So luckily I didn't really have to shift anything. Because I get to work with women like all across the world, which is so amazing. I
mhm,
get to work with a lot of women close by in
mhm,
Canada, Ontario. I have a lot of women in the States. And it's been so cool connecting with women all
mhm.
across the world. It's been really cool. The biggest thing for COVID for me was really being able to focus on this business full time. So
Oh,
before COVID, I was still working at another job in project management.
mhm,
So different than this. And with COVID, I actually decided to make my holistic acne coaching a full time
mhm.
endeavor. So it's actually been really exciting for me, and it's been really positive overall.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, because you're already online, I think it obviously helped that you could keep maintaining the same way you're connecting with customers. Have you found that more people, maybe within the industry, or I guess within the industry, have looked for more holistic things now that they're stuck at home and they might have more time to research, or because they can take some more time to work on their skin or maintain their life? Have you seen a shift in the industry like that at all, or has it been pretty consistent?
Yeah. Okay. So great question. Yes. So I would say now is such a perfect time, or the past year has been such
Mhm,
a perfect time to really invest in your health and invest in yourself because people aren't commuting. For the most part, some people have more time on their hands.
mhm,
And I think for my demographic, which is younger women, they do have more time on their
Mhm.
hands, like they're commuting less, they're at home, and they're also able to, it's such a good environment when you're working from home to set up new health goals because you're
Mhm.
at home, you're grocery shopping, you're not eating out as much. You have so much more control over your environment during this time. So it's truly been the perfect time to set up new routines, set up new habits, and also the space to kind of do that in a super approachable way has been,
Mhm.
I think, so good for what I do. And another aspect of that, at the beginning of COVID, it was a lot more challenging to, for some people in some communities, to even get doctor's appointments that weren't emergent. So, for a lot of women who would typically go to their family doctor or a dermatologist with an acne or skin condition, um, my practice was like a really great alternative to that because it was completely virtual and I was available all the time when it was a little bit um, more challenging to like get into those appointments. I think now things have opened up, so it's
Mhm.
not the same, but at the beginning, yeah.
And when speaking with a new client, is there some common misconceptions, whether it be when looking or speaking with a holistic coach or within the whole acne world in general? Is there some common things you constantly hear from new clients?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, there's a lot of common misconceptions out there with acne. The biggest thing I try to change in people's mindset is I think acne is often something that we think we need to like fight or kind of like you need to dry out your skin. That's a lot of like conventional
Mhm.
approach that you need to use super harsh skincare and that you need to like, I don't know, do all these things. And then a lot of people also too think that like the holistic or natural approach is like you need to be super restrictive in your diet and you can only eat this, this, and this. I like would like to totally debunk that because my approach is much more balanced. I really don't, unless someone has a specific food intolerance
Mhm.
or a specific food allergy, I really like to encourage like food freedom because I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest contributors to acne is stress. And so if we're stressing about our food choices and we're creating this kind of unhealthy relationship with food, that's going to be far worse. That's not far worse, but that's going to contribute to stress breakouts a lot more than just eating the food would. Of course, I'm a huge advocate for, filling up your plate with as
Mhm.
much nourishing food as possible because that does
Mhm.
support the skin. But yeah, there are a lot of myths around it, and it also depends who you work with. My approach is I want to make it super approachable, um, and things that you can like actually include into your daily routine,
Mhm.
but also things that work. And I think going at it from a multifaceted approach, like I do, which is nutrition and skincare, so it's like internal
Mhm.
and external, I think is really gives really great results.
And that's super interesting to hear, especially, from before saying how like being virtual with individuals, having the ability to set up a little bit more of a structured lifestyle to possibly eat healthier, kind of get more activity and control your day a little bit more. And even if you are busier, because some organizations have ended up giving people more work because they're from home, but just having some more control a lot of times can make a way for you to really introduce new things into your life. What was really interesting with what you said is a lot of misconceptions of like, oh, you have oily skin, you need to dry it out, or if you have dry skin, you have it oily. I remember when I went to I think when I was in Vancouver, went to the Lush factory, and then someone was asking like, "Oh, I have oily skin. What can I dry it out?" And the person said, "That's not what like one doesn't equal the other. Just because your skin's oily, you might need it to be a little bit more oily, or like drying it out could cause more issues." And I remember hearing that being like, "Oh wait, so it's not like a math equation. It's not like if you have this one thing, it's always the other thing." And it was very interesting to learn that, and like you said, that it's very holistic. And just because one thing is occurring, even there could be other solutions. You might assume, like if you look online, like we counterproductive that can make things worse. Like how you talk about the diet. Like a lot of times I feel, and even other parts of life, whether it be in business or in life, where sometimes you'll say, "Oh, I need to fix this one thing to fix something else." Like how you said with the diet is, well, Obviously, eating unhealthy foods is bad for you. No one will ever say you should eat more unhealthy foods, but if it's causing more harm to you within reason, that sometimes isn't the big issue. Like you said, with stress, is if stress is your biggest factor, adding more stress, even it, no matter how beneficial it might seem on paper, with like, oh, I'm not going to eat that key lime pie on Fridays, or I'm not going to eat these certain foods. At the end of the day, you're trying to have a healthier lifestyle. A lot of times, these things could cause more issues, or cause almost like trying to fix seeing a tree for the forest, where you're not really fixing at the end of the day. You have to look at everything in general to really see how can I get into a better place tomorrow, rather than trying to fix small things that may not be that big impact down the road. So I really like your approach to that, and kind of how you explain first your own brand, but how you like to approach things to make things a little bit easier and a little bit better for everyone else, so they can get to a stage where they can take control of it for themselves. So in the world, I know obviously within dermatology and everything else, there's a lot of elixirs almost. There's like a lot of topical things, and it's always seems, especially when you're young, that marketing really feeds on young individuals. Have you, is it, I guess you say, over these past 5 to 10 years since you've been looking at this, has the solutions been getting better, or is it really just marketing at the end of the day? Like, would someone, let's say 10 years ago, have the same access, maybe not the same knowledge, but the same access to products? Or are the products really getting that much better? Or is it just all that marketing dollars really, and due to Instagram, people feeling more insecure and thinking it's a bigger issue than it maybe it was always the same issue, but now it seems like a bigger issue than it was in the past?
Great question. I think the skincare industry has like it's such an amazing industry. And I think the answer is yes to both. I think
Mm-hmm.
there are some amazing products out there, and I think that the formulas have definitely improved over time. And then there with that, because it's such like a massive industry, there's just as much stuff out there that isn't great for your skin. And the marketing just plays on your vulnerability, and it can be so intimidating, especially for someone who is feeling insecure about their
Mm-hmm.
skin, because they're playing on those vulnerabilities. The marketing is so smart, it's so good, and just because something is labeled as a certain thing, or like even like labeled as natural or organic, like just because something is natural and organic doesn't mean it's good for your skin. And there's this whole fight right now with like natural skincare versus chemical skincare, and really everything is a chemical. So the terminology is is also like it's not even correct, and it can
Mm-hmm.
be super confusing. It's even confusing for me, and I consider myself a pretty like ingredient expert. Um yeah, the marketing is just it's so good, but I would say like formulations have definitely become more sophisticated. I definitely see a lot more companies talking about skin barrier and how that's super important, and hydration. I love seeing like sunscreen becoming more of a marketing angle as well, because I feel sunscreen is really, really important, especially if you are struggling with acne and you have that compromised skin barrier. Yeah. But my biggest advice really for tackling the marketing that is the skincare industry is just like always check the ingredients. Like the ingredients do not lie. So personally, like the outside of a box to me means nothing. Like the front of the label means nothing. You got to turn it around and like look at the ingredients. So because all the terminology in skincare isn't I don't know the right word, but it's not like monitored. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't you know when something's like certified organic, like that certification is I don't know the right word, but all the other terminology that's used,
Mm-hmm.
it's not regulated. So
Yeah.
anyone can slap the word natural on a product.
Mm-hmm.
There's
And
no yeah.
it reminds me a lot of like the supplement industry, especially when I was in university, where
Mhm.
it's not very regulated. And especially when you're young, it can be very intimidating to look at a label. And a lot of times there's proprietary blends, which just means a cheap blend half the time. And they don't want to say what's in it. It's a lot of these terminologies. You're like, you look at the marketing, when you flip it over, you're like, oh, I don't understand what this chemical is. I don't know if this is good or bad. In the supplement world, it's a little bit different because chemicals seem a lot cooler. So you're like, oh, this has a big word. This must mean it's going to make me stronger. When at the end of the day, it's like, oh, this is just caffeine in a different word. But I like how you said is that one thing that is always challenging, especially the more I think you learn in any topic, is that the whole idea of between what's natural and what's a chemical. Like I like how you said, at the end of the day, everything is technically a chemical. It's just how the marketing is put. And I've seen people go from, oh, like no chemicals, chemicals are all bad, to then the other side saying, well, natural doesn't always mean good. And then there were some bad connotations with natural, especially in the cleaning. Like every time we'd buy like anything cleaning products, you're like, oh, natural means weak. But then that switched also, where it's now I feel health. I think there's always good to have a healthy skepticism of both. Just because
Mhm.
it's natural, what does that mean? Like, well, like all food to some extent is natural because it's been grown. So like what I
Yeah.
always like to say, like when broccoli was gluten free, there's never gluten in broccoli. So how is it having gluten free any better? And that was spiking sales. So it's one of those things where, like how you said, like read the ingredients because at least then you'll have a better understanding
Yeah.
of what it is,
Yeah.
which is always
And
funny.
just understanding too, like it's an industry, it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
So people are getting paid a lot of money to market things in a certain way. So I think understanding at the end of the day that you're a consumer
Mm-hmm.
um, is like a big thing. But definitely skincare companies, I think, have definitely improved over
Mm-hmm.
time. But
I think with social media, probably also has hurt a lot of individuals in the sense of feeling more self conscious. But I think it also has allowed people like you to really get different perspectives and really other solutions out there. Whereas before, if you didn't have $1 million in marketing, you could have never got your voice out there. Now there's an ability to build a following like you have and connect with individuals to give them alternatives and really hear your story to see a different way of solving a problem that many people may feel was impossible to solve or something they're always going to have to battle with. And like what you said about like battling acne, I always feel like it a lot of times sounds like such a harsh word. Like you have to fight it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be aggressive. Like this is a whole full-time commitment. When a lot, like how you said, there's sometimes simpler solutions. It doesn't have to seem like it's either, when you said wrote a picture of me thinking of is a lot of times it's like either I have acne and it's bad or I don't have it and it's good. If I always have it, I'm never fully solved. Like how you described it, like that it being a journey and that you're not battling it, you're trying to minimize it or work with it. And I think that gives you a healthier relationship with your skin and probably with your mental health in general, just realizing, okay, how can we work together to solve this and not have to fight it, which is also such an aggressive word. A lot of these companies use really harsh words. And I know, especially within like you're saying, you do some PM work or within like tech, it's like we have to kill this product. We have to use all these harsh words. Sometimes you need to be a little peaceful in your life can make a big difference. So now that COVID's been occurring, the business has been growing. What is really the next steps for you and the business and the brand? Is there do you have a plan for the next six? Obviously, you have a plan, but like what's the next big steps going forward? Is there a new, I guess, yeah, like what does the future hold?
yeah, I've really loved working with clients one on one, coaching one on one. That's
Mm-hmm.
really my favorite space to be in. And but in the future, I actually have a course coming out in the fall. So this will be like a foundations and acne foundations e-course. So um, women will be able to kind of use this as almost like a starting program. It's a really great intro to a natural acne approach.
Mm-hmm.
There will be like a community aspect to it as well. So they'll be able to connect with other women who are
Mm-hmm.
struggling with similar things and kind of get those like questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm most excited about this program is it's going to be a little bit more accessible than working with me one on one. Because it is like a self paced e course. So it's all like online.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it will also be a really great kind of helping someone like set the foundations because there is quite a bit of work that someone can kind of get started on before coming to work with me one on one. So I think it will be a really great kind of entry level way that will really get them started so
Mm-hmm.
that by the time that they're able to connect with me, if they decide that's the journey they want to continue with, they're already kind of doing the basics. It's really setting like, this is the basics, like you should get started if, and then, if they're still not seeing the results that they want, or if they are kind of dealing with a chronic hormonal imbalance, then we're able to really kind of like hit the ground running. So I'm really excited about that. It'll expand my community. It will allow me to work with more women, because it won't be monitored like so much on my availability, because working one-on-one is obviously more time consuming. But
Yeah.
this e-course, anyone will be able to purchase it, and it's completely self-paced. So they'll be able to really work with me because it will be all video content and summaries. So they'll get that one-on-one support, just in a like self-paced course format. So that's my plan for the next 6 months. I'm super
Mm.
excited about that. And then, yeah.
Yeah. And if people want to kind of follow along in your journey, what's the best place to get a hold of you or connect with you or visit like, what is your website? Kind of what's the best place? Yeah, to get in touch.
My website is caralynhale.com. So
Mhm.
CaralynHale.com. And my Instagram is Caralyn_skin theory. And so
Nice.
that's the best place to chat with me or connect with me.
And that's so exciting. Your journey is so amazing, especially with kind of how this whole 15-year journey, like you said, you've never have guessed it. If when I was talking to you as a trampoline instructor, baby little Carolyn, and kind of where you'd be today is such a unique journey, and especially progression into like a whole world of entrepreneurship, which is always exciting to kind of do your own thing and make an impact in people's lives around the world.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm excited.